Hello and welcome back to When Sunday Comes, a podcast that delves into the heart of the women's game and presented by myself, Graham Falk. Today's guest is someone who developed her trade across the pond, has been a regular feature in the WSL for both Arsenal and Aston Villa, and has represented England across numerous different age groups. Welcome to the show, Anna Patten. Anna, how are you? You okay?
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Good. We always start the podcast with exactly the same question because I feel like people don't actually do this. It's 10:30 in the morning, approximately. How's your morning been? Okay.
Yeah, great. I actually had a lovely drive up with Rachel Corsie, Captain Corsie. And we had a long old chat about the game. She's like captain / coach, and she's like everything she says is words of wisdom. So I do enjoy what she has to say about the game and everything. So yeah, had quite a pleasant morning. Thank you.
Good. You won't know this obviously, but I live literally right next to Hampden Park. So if I turned that way, there would be about a 10-foot photo of Rachel Corsie just right outside of Hampden.
Oh,
so
that's nice for you.
Random fact, isn't it? Random fact. But we're going to try and go over as much of your career as we possibly can, which is going to be impossible, but we'll try our best, and we'll start with the present. Obviously, you joined Villa in the summer, linked it with Carla Ward again, and at the time of speaking, currently sit 8th, but you've enjoyed wins over Man City, Manchester United in the Cup, Leicester. How much have you enjoyed the start of the campaign?
The start was really good, and obviously we were successful. That first game was really exciting. It was at Villa Park. We had a really good crowd. They really got behind us, and obviously a really full-on game, 4-3. Definitely didn't think that was going to be the scoreline when I was thinking about the game the night before, but obviously really happy to come away with the win there, and then to get the away win to Leicester as well, I think was really important. And now looking at those two games, they were huge for us, obviously, because results have been less in our favour since then. So yeah, it's kind of like tale of two halves really for the start of the season, but I think we're going to be learning from our most recent games and hopefully turn the games around and hopefully get a few more wins now.
Looking at that Man City game, I think obviously there's all that talk about the cliche legacy of the Euros and all that kind of stuff. Obviously Rachel Daley really starred in that, shall we say. But a great game, great advertisement, but obviously playing at Aston Villa, playing at Villa Park, one of my favourite grounds to go to as an away fan. How was the experience as a whole? Because it wasn't just the game being brilliant, the fans were great as well. I watched the game live.
Oh yeah, no, it was unreal. Like anytime we had a counter attack or like a flow of play that was really successful, the crowd really got behind us, and you could almost like hear them getting behind us. It was great. I think it was really good showing off the back of the Euros and then being so successful. And we've been seeing really good attendances all through the games. Our most recent one against Chelsea, I'm pretty certain that was like a sold out Kings Meadow. And although it wasn't in our favour because they had a very good home crowd, it was just a really cool experience to be a part of.
Yeah, it's great to go to grounds, and I've been to a few this year, sort of in the Championship, even Durham, Everton, and it's always been like attendance records seem to be getting broken out or close to it, and you kind of check on the numbers, which is it's just testament to, I think, what the summer's done and the hard work that's been put in over the past few years. But you touched on Rachel Corsie before, who's apparently a midfielder these days, which will be weird for people to hear from Scotland, but you've been playing alongside her just in front, Danielle Turner as well, both vastly experienced. You've already touched on kind of the things they offer you as a player. How much are you learning from both of those two?
Oh yeah, loads. They're really good, experienced players who, like I say, whatever they say, I really take and want to work on. Loads of experience. What's actually new is Dan hasn't had to play centre back that often, so it's kind of all three of us work together to help each other out. And I think we're starting to form a really good relationship between all of us.
And I think in terms of you move to Villa, obviously it's not completely unusual, but it's not the norm that obviously someone takes a second loan spell after joining the year on loan too beforehand. What attracted you to Villa, not just in the first place, but also to come back?
So in Christmas time last year, it was like Arsenal were allowing me to go on loan, and it was kind of a toss up between a couple clubs. I think what sold Villa for me was Carla. We had some really good discussions. She seemed very positive about where she wanted to take this football club, and the way she wanted Villa to play, and I felt like it suited me a lot more than the other option I had. So that's initially why I came in January. It was really positive from Carla, and then obviously my season ended just a bit prematurely, which was frustrating, but I'd been sat down with Carla and general manager, and they'd already had that discussion where it's like, if you have the option to go on loan again, we'd really want to have you back here at Villa. She was really pushing how the club was going to change, she was wanting to bring in top quality players, along with, well, at the time I didn't realize, but obviously they refreshed coaching staff and everything, and I think you can just see the club, the board is really getting behind the women's side, and we're really taking those steps in the right direction. So I think that was really like attractive for me to come back here, and obviously the relationships I'd already created in January when I was here, with players and staff, really made it an easy decision to come back.
I think before I move away from Villa completely, you talked about top class signings coming in the summer. One might have won the Euros by the name of Rachel Daley. I think we all know what kind of player she is, be it left back, be it up front, be it wherever she wants to play these days. But as a character, I don't know her. I think many people don't, but you can see the character that's there. I think you see people going to Lionesses games now with cowboy hats on. She kind of coined that. But what's she like in the dressing room, Rachel? Because she seems like a really vibrant character.
Yeah, no, she is. She came in, and I've even said this to her. I was like, I really like, hats off to you, because you came into this team and you were just like you were yourself straight away. Like, she felt very comfortable around us. She's, yeah, well, obviously she's top quality player, so she brings that on the pitch, but then off the pitch, yeah, she's formed really good relationships with everyone. She's actually really good with the young girls, and you can see that. She kind of has taken a few of them under her wing, and I think she's really trying to fill them with confidence and help them with their next steps in their career and everything. But yeah, no, great teammate to have.
Now, going back to obviously the beginning of your career, there's so much I can cover with Arsenal. So Arsenal fans, I'm sorry in advance if I haven't covered enough here. But you joined at just 12 years old. So for a long, long time in my lifetime, I'm 36, so I'm a little bit older than you. But Arsenal have always been prominent in terms of women's clubs due to the talent they've produced. You can go through a list of them. You won lots at youth level, and then obviously you made your debut at, I think, 18. What was that feeling like, not just to make your debut after 6 years of all that hard work and coming through the ranks, but also to make it for a club as big as Arsenal that have produced so many women's players throughout the years?
Yeah, like, it's the cliche that I always say, but it honestly was like a dream come true, because I'm also an Arsenal fan. So for me to play, be part of Arsenal all the way up, I used to go to Meadow Park as like a 13-year-old, handing out the programs, and then to obviously get my debut on that pitch and like have a crowd behind me, it was quite a surreal feeling. So yeah, no, everything in terms of my time at Arsenal to then getting my debut was, yeah, dream come true, really.
How weird is that when because I mean, I've kind of done the program selling thing and the being in the crowd and waiting for the players as a kid and all that kind of stuff. I've never played. I couldn't quite emphasize how that would feel. So I think we've seen a lot of the stories, like Leah, for example. Like Leah did sort of similar, the same as a lot of players at Arsenal that have done really similar trajectories. But does it take a while for that to sink in that you've actually done it?
Yeah, it does. Obviously, for me, it was a bit different, because it was like I got my debut, I don't know, March, April time, and then we had the spring series, and then I left for America. So it was kind of like this. I obviously didn't get a contract or anything like that. It was just got my debut, and that was, yeah, surreal, like I said. I think stuff that did make it, like, it was just training week in, week out with the players and everything, and then having them on my team. I think that was like very real for me. I think that's when I was like, oh my God, this is pretty insane, being able to play alongside these players. I think that's when I was like, oh yeah, this is pretty cool.
Try and hold yourself and scream when you get home, like, yeah. It's a question you're obviously going to get asked an awful lot, but obviously you moved to America, so you touched on there to play sort of college football when you were still a teenager, Florida State, South Carolina. I think everyone knows what that can do to a player and what can help with development, but everyone's got their own individual reasons. What were your reasons for sort of taking your development to America?
Yeah, there was a couple factors. I would say for me, when I was about 16, 17, I was seeing a lot of girls in like the England youth age group at the time already getting their debuts for their WSL teams, like already making that step. And at that point, I was still only playing under 17 football for Arsenal. Like I wasn't making that leap, and other players at Arsenal were, and I wasn't. I was thinking, do you know what? I think America's the right thing for me. Along with that, it had also always been like something I'd thought about from like quite a young age. Maybe Bend It Like Beckham was a bit of an influence. But yeah, no, I was my mum always said you were like destined for America. But then probably the biggest factor for me was education. So obviously the setup they have out there is you can train at a really high level, insane facilities, but then also get a degree at the same time. And I think that was a really important factor for me and my family.
In terms of when you came back, obviously you were signed for Arsenal in 2021. So the years between 2018, 2021 were really huge for women's football, especially in England because of the World Cup and all sorts of stuff, the Euros gearing up and whatnot. When you left the WSL, or when you left Arsenal to come back to the WSL, a lot had changed. What were the differences that you felt when you came back in 2021?
Yeah, obviously crowd sizes was just like a huge one, and like the following behind women's football, and obviously social media just in general had changed in that time, but like it was huge, like the difference. And when I signed, and like some of the like I was getting like edits made of me, I was like, what is going on? What's going on here? But yeah, and then obviously the quality, like when I was coming back in 21, the players that they were attracting to the WSL was huge, like Sam Kerr, Pernille Harder. Obviously at Arsenal you had big names like Viv, and just in general the quality and like the players WSL was bringing over was huge. So yeah, the standard had just really increased.
I think the professionalism's really moved up as well. I think unbeknown to people on this, obviously these days I've done this through your wonderful media man Luke, who's been a fantastic help with this, of course, but back in the day, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, when I did a different podcast, it was through Instagram messages. You'd go the very unprofessional route and you'd get the likes of Beth Mead and all sorts of stuff. But I think with the way the professionalism's grown, so is the social media side of it. And so has, pardon me, the media want to cover more stuff. Do you feel like within the game, like all of a sudden you have like more people want to speak to you on a regular basis, more people want your autograph, your photos than sort of ever before, and it just keeps growing?
Oh yeah, massively. It's just so apparent. Yeah, podcasts, articles, you name it. I kind of get at Luke when he has to make me do an interview. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but you know, it is part of the game now, which is good. And obviously the fans need to feel like they're part of it. And yeah, no, I think it's really good. I think women's football, especially, the players really take their time out to go over to the fans and get the photos and take the autographs. I think that's really credit to the players as well.
Yeah, massively. And I was going to say, like, from your perspective, I think in women's football, that's one thing you can sort of tell. Obviously, when you're doing post matches or whatever, you see the players go over to the fans, but the players seem to be enjoying it as well. Is it something that you personally get a bit of a buzz off speaking to people about the game and sort of growing it from speaking to fans?
Yeah, definitely. It's always nice to go over there, and even sometimes after a loss, and you just got all these smiley faces, you know, and they're getting excited by you giving them your autograph or getting a photo. And I especially love it when you see like young girls who've maybe come from their own game, and you just think, oh, you're inspiring the next generation, which I think is such a big factor in women's football that we're really aiming to do. So yeah, no, I think it's a really good part of the game.
Yeah, I think, you know, you look at the WSL and everything that's going on around it, I think at the core of it, that's the thing. There's little girls and little boys that can look at it now and see a woman can be a professional footballer. That maybe wasn't the case 10 years ago. And I think that's the main thing, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Regarding your time at Arsenal, you know, even now you go through the time when you made your debut to now, there's loads of players that are still there, but there's such an awash of talent and experienced talent. Jen Beattie, obviously one of my faves, only plays your position. Which players have you learnt the most from during your time at Arsenal, both in 2018 and both obviously 2021 and onwards?
Yeah, that's a good one. I'd say when I was younger, when I was 18, I'd say Jordan was a really big part of like making me feel comfortable.
I'm a Sunderland fan, so that's great news.
Yeah, no, she was really big part of it. She would always talk to me, always try and like coach me and help me out, even if it was just little details that would help. And also I was really fortunate that I played with Alex Scott because I know retirement was kind of around the corner at that time. But she was the right back when I was playing centre half. And she would also like demand a lot from me, but I really respected that because obviously it was easy for her to not do that and just think, oh, this is an 18-year-old, but she really wanted the best for me and really helped me and helped me learn a lot. And then I would say when I returned back, obviously there was an array of talent and quality in the Arsenal team. You can name all of them in terms of like what they've done for internationally and for Arsenal and other club teams. But I say it all the time, but I'm like Kim Little's biggest fangirl. Honestly, I think she is unreal every day in training, and just like the attitude she has towards football and the professionalism, yeah, she's unmatched, I would say.
As someone who lives in Scotland, you do not need to remind me of how good Kim Little is in every way, shape, size, or form. I imagine these players as well are people that you can still rely on. Obviously, you're on loan at the moment, but I bet you can still pick up the phone and ask for advice if you need to.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's like a good community at Arsenal. They're all really supportive of my move and they check in with me and wish me all the best. And especially when I beat teams like City, I get a lot more messages probably. I think they would have loved if we somehow managed to pull out a result at the weekend as well. They would have loved that. But yeah, they're all really supportive and it's a really nice bunch of girls. So yeah, still stay in contact.
Obviously, still with your time at Arsenal, I think if you look at like moments that you've had in your career so far at Arsenal that have been really standout, it's really hard to look away from the North London derby at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Set one up, scored one. How high does that rank up in your career highlights so far?
That was a really odd one actually because it was pre-season, and so many girls were away. I think it was the Olympics. So me and a couple of girls always talk about that being like the best pre-season ever. I don't know if that's really
No such thing as a
to say
friendly, I
about
don't think.
all the players that weren't there, but we had a great time. And I just was given free rein as a midfielder in that, which was unusual for me, but I absolutely loved it. I always, even the girls would say it here, if we're playing small-sided, I probably play more as a striker than I do as a defender because I do love getting amongst it in that sense. But yeah, no, that was, I wouldn't say that's probably a highlight for me, but that was a really fun game that I look back at. I think, wow. And although I don't love to say it because I hate the team, but they do have an unreal stadium there. And it was like quite, it was a cool thing to be a part of. But yeah, that was just a fun little preseason game. That's how I describe that.
It's funny because you'd never look back on something like a preseason game as anywhere near a highlight, especially with all the things you've done with England as well, like at youth team levels and stuff like that. But there's no such thing as a friendly against Spurs and Arsenal, surely.
Nah, yeah, no, that's true. I do always love a rivalry game. There's just something about it that just makes it that little bit special.
It's got a bit of bite that game as well. I quite enjoy watching it as a neutral, quote unquote. You've been part of numerous successful England youth squads, as I kind of pointed out before. You've been part of the camps as well with the senior team. While it's really competitive at the moment, understandably, European champions, we've never seen that before. But I think Serena's shown she's willing to give players a chance. You're just 23, I believe. What are your international ambitions? Is there something you think about? Or is it just concentrate on club form and then hopefully get noticed?
It's obviously something I think about, but for now, obviously, it's a thing within the England setup. Obviously, sometimes I still go to under 23 camps, and Serena's huge on your performances within the WSL. So for me, I just know I've got to focus on that. And if it comes, it comes. But of course, it's an aspiration of mine. I would love to be able to play for England one day. The squad is, like you say, so competitive and so successful at the moment. So I might have to wait my time. But yeah, it's something I push for and something I want definitely in my career.
I think I had Poppy Pattinson on a couple of weeks ago in regards to her obviously plays quite often, same sort of level. You've been at under 23 level, she plays under 23 level. And I asked if she'd managed to have much conversation with Serena, and obviously she mentioned Mo an awful lot more. But have you managed to have direct contact with Serena when you've been part of the under 23s? Is there someone that will come in and obviously discuss what she needs to see for you to get to that next step?
I would say more Mo takes that responsibility, but you're very aware that Mo has constant conversations with Serena, so they really do work together. Last season, sometimes our camps crossed over with the seniors in terms of we were at St. George's at the same time as them. So she would pop her head in at training, and sometimes along with the players, actually, we sometimes had a bit of a crowd watching our training sessions. But yeah, you know through Mo that she's watching, she's interested, but less direct contact with the woman herself.
Yeah, of course, and I suppose that kind of makes sense. But we all know how important Mo is and what she's done in the game and stuff like that. How much have you learned from her just when you're away on camps with Mo?
Oh yeah, Mo's been a massive part of my England youth career journey. I've had her probably too many years. I think she's probably bored of me by now. But yeah, you look at everyone who's in that senior team and they've come through Mo at one stage. She's an integral part of the FA and she's done a lot for women's football. So yeah, you can't really say anything bad about the woman.
Yeah, no, I met her once and I was too kind of terrified to say hello because I think it was kind of instantly noticed who it was and just kind of went, okay, I'll just show her where she needs to go and then I'll just move out of the way. So yeah, I understand that intimidation. But I've got one more question for you. There's so much stuff I want to like cover still. Using plays that you've played alongside only, what would be your ultimate five-a-side team? Plus, you can include yourself if you want, but you don't have to.
Oh wow. Wow. Okay. I've never actually been asked that question. Obviously, got to put Kim Little in there. Kim Little, right. You've got me thinking now.
It's always the hardest question. I don't know why I leave it to the end, but then I also completely know why I leave it right to the end.
Yeah. Okay. Do I have to have a goalkeeper? Is that like necessary?
Poppy didn't. A couple of guests have, but Poppy didn't. She went rush goalkeeper.
I'm going to say Kim Little, Viv. She's going to score all the goals. Oh, God, this is hard because I'm thinking about like England youth as well and some of those players in there. Georgia Stanway.
Oh, good shout.
Because she's just going to be a bit of a brute as well, you know. She'll just win the ball back, absolutely 2-footing everyone.
Yeah.
And Katie McCabe. What am I on? 4.
Mm-hmm.
And then Anita Asante to hold it back, hold the fort down at the back. Anita Asante, Katie McCabe, Kim and Georgia, and then Viv up top. Solid.
It's not a bad team, is it, to be fair?
It's not bad.
We had Katie up here not too long ago, and obviously the Ireland-Scotland game. She's fiery, man. She's fiery.
She is. She is. Actually, it's a bit of a brutal five-a-side that. She's got Georgia Stanway and Katie McCabe on it. And yeah, there could be some broken legs on the other team.
Yellow card in waiting. And actually, one more final question before I let you go. There is one more that I completely missed out. So that's meant to be the last question, but I have to do some serious editing here. Even a more difficult question, but you've come up against some really good centre forwards. You've come up against some really good players in midfield. Who's the best player you've ever played against?
It's a really good question. Oh, that's a really good question.
Because there's a lot.
Who's the best player I've played against? Obviously, Sam Kerr's up there. But Sam's one of those players where it's not like in 90 minutes you're just going to get, you know, she's running at you and she's like tricky. She's just going to score goals against you because that's what she does. And she's obviously rapid, which isn't fun. Yeah. This is actually a bit of a rogue one, but when I was 18, when I was playing up against Ramona Backman when she was at Chelsea, I would arguably say that she was probably the trickiest opponent I had to play because of how good she was with her feet. And she would just get the ball and drive at you and dribble and like shift it. And I'd probably say that's one of the hardest things to defend personally. So yeah, I would say Ramona Backman.
Yeah, I like the rogue one. You'd be surprised you're not the only person to say that. Unbeknown to some people, obviously work for Glasgow City, and one of our defenders played against her, and she said that was her most difficult opponent. So rogue, but not as rogue as you may think. But
yeah, maybe.
Anna, really lovely speaking to you. Thanks so much for taking the time out to speak to me today. I hope you enjoyed it. I always say that most importantly because I know there's loads of requests. So I really do hope you've enjoyed it yourself.
Yeah, no, it was really enjoyable. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.